Hi friends, it's Becky, and I want to share with you the beads from the Beads to Live By Curated Collections. This is for November 2025. This is a monthly bead subscription that ships, you pay quarterly and it ships monthly. And each month there are two different subscriptions. One is just the seed bead subscription, and one is the seed bead plus 2-hole bead subscription. And I subscribe to the seed bead and 2-hole bead subscription. So I get this every month. There are also some curated bundles that are meant to go with and enhance this that are available for a separate purchase at Beads to Live By. Extras for this box will be listed at the Beads to Live By website, and I will go ahead and link to that in the description below if you want to check that out. Let's take a look at these colors. This isn't your typical like November color palette, but I love it because you've got like some really light pastel colors mixed with jewel tones and just some unexpected combinations that work together as part of the curated collections. One of the reasons I love this is because sometimes, I don't know if you guys go to sites that have just tons and tons and tons of seed beads and check glass and 2-hole beads, and you look at pages and pages and you just don't know which colors are going to go with other colors just by looking at the page. It gets really overwhelming. It can be really confusing. And so having somebody else pick the colors out for me is perfect. It is exactly what I want in a bead shopping experience, to be like, somebody looked at these and said, these colors will go with these. These colors will be an enhancement or accompany it well. These ones will contrast with it well or something, and then put it together in a color palette for me to use. So I'm going to scooch in a little bit closer and we're going to take a look at each of these bead colors individually. Now there are 8 different sizes of seed beads. You can see how those different sizes are there. Sorry, 4, not 8. You get 8 seed bead selections in 4 different sizes, starting with the 15-0 seed beads. So the 15-0 seed beads here, we've got these metallic blue-gray seed beads right there. I thought at first when I was unboxing them that they were matte finish, but they are not. They do have a bit of a luster to them. All right, and then we've got some clear, is it coral lined? It is either coral or a peach color of these 15-0 seed beads. And then the next size that we get are 11-0 seed beads. And each of the 11-0, 8-0, and 6-0 seed bead sizes come in 10-gram bags. The 15-0s come in 2.5-inch tubes. So this one is a gorgeous berry color. It's like a wine color for that dark, almost purple, burgundy-ish color with a beautiful luster finish. And then we've got some silver-lined sapphire AB 11-0 seed beads here. And I love this for the jewel tones and for the different flavors that come out of that. We've got a fantastic neutral. This is gray, opal gray, silver lined 8-0 seed beads. This is our 3rd size. And then we've got some semi-opaque, grape colored, just a nice light misty gray 8-0 seed bead. And these are a really fun selection. This is our 6-0 seed beads. We've got, I think it's green lined. It looks green when I look on the inside of it. It's blue glass with green lining, so you get the fantastic color shift and color explosion on that. And then we've got some matte peach, almost a rosaline color, 8-0, 6-0 seed beads. So these are both the 6-0s. And that's our seed bead sizes and shapes. And then we've got some 2-hole seed beads. And with this, you get 5 selections of 2-hole beads. We're going to start with these cabochons. They are 2-hole cabochons, so they've got 2 holes that go through that. And these ones are 8 millimeters in size. Now we've gotten 6 millimeter cabochon, 2-hole cabochons in our bead subscription before. So since these are a different size, you may not be able to use the same pattern, or you may need to make adjustments to it because they are 2 millimeters larger. Then we've got some gemduo beads. And these gemduos are like that metallic satin finish, but this one has blue with a little bit of a purple hint around the outside edge. And then we've got some nib bits, which are super fun beads to work with. They're pie shaped and they've got holes that go through the short sides of these. I've got a wedge shape all the way around. I've done some patterns with nib bits before. Last month's subscription, one of the things I did with it was this super fun wavy bracelet where like I accented the curve by using 8 O's on the outside and 11 O's on the inside. And this is just done with beading wire on this one. So this is something that I made last month. And I did this on the live that I had with Cassandra on the Beads to Live By YouTube channel. So I'll link to that in the description if you want to check that out and see what that looks like. But these are just a really fun metallic coral kind of a color. And then we've got a couple that are on strands. These came in some pretty generously sized bags. I did not weigh them. But then we've got strands of more 2-hole beads. These are metallic purple pyramid or stud beads. These are some of my favorites. I like using them in 2-hole bead designs like that. And then we've also got some 2-hole dagger beads. So these ones have 2 holes that are closer to one end than to the other. And I love the semi-opaque quality on these ones. Dagger beads are also really fun to play with as far as 2-hole beads go. And I like having that second hole sometimes with the dagger beads, because sometimes in bead weaving designs, if you just do single hole daggers, they can get a little floppy. But having that second hole lets you kind of cement them into position a little bit better on that. So I'm going to pull back from here. Let's take a look at these guys again. I did not get the check glass bundles this time, but that's okay because there's plenty of other beads that I can use on this. And I thought it might be kind of fun to maybe design with some of these. Like I've been looking at them while I was putting them out and starting to get some ideas for just some of these guys that are already off. Actually, let's get a bead mat out for that. So I've got some needles on here. Let's do a little design on the fly, and you guys can watch my design process, like how I figure out how the beads can come together. And I'm just clearing some things off of this bead on it board that I like to use for some of my designs. I've got some beading needles stuck in here. This one I can play around with it. It's going to show up a little bit better on camera without all of this other stuff in the way. So we've got that. Let me grab some of these guys. These nib bits, because I'm feeling like I want to see how the how I can get the nib bits and these gemduos to play nicely with each other in a design. And I want to get this cabochon in the center and see how we can do that. So I'm just going to get these guys on this bead mat and start playing with positioning. This is the first step when I'm doing like 2-hole bead designs, is just seeing how they fit like puzzle piece wise. All right, now the thing about the nib bits is you can have them fit, work really well doing a circle around something like this with the pointier end in, the narrower end in. But I want to see how we do with them pointy end out and see if we can just smoosh our little, because they've got their second hole up here. We could probably match that hole up with one of these holes in the gemduos. Something like that to get these guys around. So let's see what we do with this. Now when I do this sort of designing thing, some of it's trial and error. Like I will lay things out and it'll look great on my beadboard, but then once I finally get the beading thread through, things might need a little more adjustment in order for it to work correctly. So we'll trial and error this. I might pull my thread out and start over a couple of times while we're doing this, but I want these to go around in a circle. How many nib bits would I need for this? But so we'll have the big fat end over there, and then we can put this guy in the middle. And oh, that guy's not going to be big enough for this kind of a curve, so let's do a tighter curve. Let's move these guys out of the way a little bit and just do a tighter curve around here to figure out how many beads we'll need. I'm just laying them down like puzzle pieces, trying to figure out how things work together. So it looks like 6 of them would work pretty well for this. Around that 8mm cabochon. But then there's going to be a lot of space between the holes, it looks like, on these gemduos and that second hole on the nib bits. But the fun thing about seed beads is you can use them to fill that space and also add a little extra decoration on here. So it's going to end up looking a little bit like this, and I'm wondering which seed beads to use for this. I think I want to go with higher contrast on this design. So let me grab these berry colored 11-Os, and we'll use that in between the nib bits and there, and also for other parts where we might have 11-Os on here. And then between here, because there's the second hole here, and these are going to be floppy unless I get something between them to kind of do that. Let's grab some seed beads, some 8-O seed beads. And I think I want to pull more of that purple color. So some 8-O seed beads, and then, yes, a 6-O. So we'll have a 6-O in between, and then we'll have some 8-Os with maybe an 11-O or a 15-O in between for the outside edge. That's going to pull in all of our colors. All right, so we've got purple 8-Os, we've got our little peach 6-Os, and then once I get this guy into place, I'm going to want to maybe do like a faux bezel for it with some 15-Os. I'm trying to decide which 15-Os to use for that. Probably these blue ones. Let's do the blue ones. All right, so now the next trick, the next step is to see if it works, to see if this little idea is going to actually work or come together. So let me just scooch a couple more of these guys on here. So I've got 15-O, 11-O, 8-O. I'm going to use all 4 bead sizes for this. And we're using the nib bits, an 8mm cabochon, and some gemduos. All right, now let me grab some thread, some beading thread. I'm going to grab some black 6-pound fireline. I'm using black because it's going to be easier for y'all to see the thread path, and with these bright colors I don't think it needs to be crystal for it to work. I'm going to go ahead and give myself like hold this and spread my arms wide to get myself a good wingspan's worth of thread because I don't know how much it's going to actually take yet. So I'm giving myself enough to play with. Let's get this threaded. Just gonna smush the end of my wire with my pliers. It flattens it out so it goes into the hole on a needle a little bit easier. And let's grab a needle. It's one of these ones that I've been using before. Get that threaded. Come on, friend. All right. Now, how we start this is another question that I'm going to try and think about. If I start with the cabochon and then put these guys around it, it might be really awkward and weird. I mean, it's going to be awkward and weird at one point anyway. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to thread on the nib bits and gemduos with one of these 11-0s in between each of them, just so that I can get that part in here and good, and then we can worry about going down in to the middle part with that other section and adding this guy and then doing our little extra bit to do a faux bezel on the inside of that cabochon. So let's do that. We'll go start at the middle, go down into the, we'll start at the middle of, not the middle of the circle, but the midpoint between the inside and the outside. So we'll start there and then go in and work on that part and then go back out and work on the outside edge. Okay, so that's how we're going to do it. And again, if this doesn't work, because sometimes it doesn't work as well in reality as it works in my head or even on here. I'm just real quick before I start picking these guys up, checking both holes on my 2-hole beads. All right, so I'm going to start with that gem duo, pick up an 11-0, and I'm just checking this second hole to make sure that it will work before I go ahead and put my nib bit on. And I'm going through the hole that is on the narrower side for these nib bits, and then picking up an 11-0. So I'm just checking both holes with my guys, and I've got it laid out so I know which hole to go through on my gem duo. So checking that hole and then putting this guy on, but make sure we don't forget our 11-0. So this is a lot to think about while I'm putting this on, is checking the hole, adding an 11-0, figuring out which one to do next. But it's definitely doable. All right, that works. Let me go through that, the narrower side. And then check that hole, that's good. Put that guy on. Let's add this one. That hole works. This guy on. That one. So right now, my thread looks like this a little bit, which is going to be fine. I don't have a stop bead on, so I'm not going to move this all the way down to the end. I'm just going to put it sort of halfway along, and then once I've got all of these strung on, I'm just going to tie a little knot. So where was I? Let's add our gem duo. Check there. That's good. And then pick up an 11-0. Add our next nib bit. Add that in. Pick up an 11-0. It's like, I'm thinking this will be something that'd be maybe a good earring design or maybe a pendant for a necklace. So let's let's get these guys all on here. All right, and then I'm going to pick up one 11-0 because I did not start with an 11-0. I need to add one so that when it becomes a circle, all of these guys will have an 11-0 between all of them. All right, so let's grab enough tail thread. There we go. To tie a knot. That's just crossed over right now. It's not actually knotted. Okay. Then I'm going to go through this twice. 1, 2. Go lay down, baby. Go lay down. All right, so we have that tied, and then we're going to end up flipping all of these into the inside of this ring, like this. And of course, we could just do it with our threads to do it that way. So I'm going to go with my beading thread through this 11-0 and the narrow point of this nib bit. And I'm going to switch over here to this second hole, the fat bottom hole on the nib bit. And the thread just goes up the side like that. And I'm going to skip the 11-0s and that and just sew right into the next nib bit in a row. If I can line them up, I can get all of them. Yeah. Because that'll flip those guys down into that center. Get that tail thread out of the way. If you need to maneuver it with your fingers a little bit, you tighten that up, you can. That's going to end up giving me a little nibbit star there in the middle. So we've got these guys in here, and then that one here. And if I wasn't going to be putting the cabochon in between here, I would probably reinforce this. But since I am going to be adding that cabochon in there in the center of this, hold on, I gotta move these tools. I tend to keep tools on the right hand side of my stuff, but then my thread catches on it, so I'm just moving them out of the way. All right. So I would reinforce this, but I'm going to be going through these beads more when I add the 15-0s after I get this guy into place. So what I want to do is line up these holes with 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, there's 7 of these guys. All right. So then we're going to go. Is that the right size, or should I be doing 6 of these? Oh no, that is too. That is going to be, I think, too big, or would 6 be too small? That's the question. I'm going to do that again with, this is the whole design process. Is sometimes it's a little messier than we thought it would be. I'm going to do that again with 6 each instead of 7 each. I think that's going to be too big. There's too much space between. So I'm going to pull this apart. If you want to skip past me pulling it apart and adding these back, you can. I'm basically doing the same thing that I did before, just with one fewer repeat of these beads. And I just took the thread off of the thread, but I've got this my knot here. I do need to snip that. Whoop. I guess that's that repeat that I don't need anymore. Snipping that knot. You know. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 of them. 5, 6. Put the other guy back. All right. Let's get this on here. Again, I wanted to show you guys the full process. That includes taking things apart and then putting them back together again. And sometimes I have to take things apart and put them back together again, and take them apart and put them back together, and several times before I finally get something that works for me. It doesn't always work the first time. And so if you're wanting to design these sorts of things and you are finding yourself frustrated because nothing works right the first time, I'm going to say don't give up. Take it apart. Do it again. And then take it apart and do it again. Don't give up if it isn't perfect the first time. You might have to remove some beads from your design, or say, you know what, the nib bits just aren't working. Or say, you know what, maybe gemduos weren't the right call for this. There have been things where I'm like, I want to use these beads, but they just didn't work in what I was making. And so and then other times, like it happens rarely, but sometimes everything just comes together perfectly and works out without having to pull things out, without having to redesign, without having to do anything else with them. It happens. Doesn't always happen though. Sometimes you do have to start over. That's part of the process. But you know, I think that's one of the things that we're happy to pay somebody for a pattern for, is because then you don't have to do that. You don't have to pull things out and try again and do all of the things all over. Okay, now I did start with an 11-0 this time, so I didn't add that 11-0 on the second one. So now I've got 6 of each of the gemduos and my nib bits, and then I've got an 11-0 between each of them. We're going through the same hole on each of my gemduos and the narrow hole on each of the nib bits. And I'm going to do the same thing that I did before. I'm going to do my little knot, and then I'm going to scooch down to the other end of my nib bits, and I'm going to tie it into, or I'm going to bring my thread through all of the fat bottom ends. All of those fat bottom ends. Oop, there we go. Let's tie this. You don't have to tie this, but I'm just doing it so that it doesn't come apart while I'm working on all the other stuff. There we go. And we'll be going back through it later to do some reinforcing, but right now I want it a little loosey-goosey so that I can maneuver and manage some things. I'm going to scooch over here into this nib bit right there. Get that out of the way. And the second row, second hole on the nib bit, and then I'm going to go through just the nib bits all the way around to get these guys rotated into the center. And then that one. All right. And this is that first one that I was crossing into. I'm going through it again so that we can close the circle and have all of these guys together. I'm turning it over so the right side of the gemduos is facing. All right, I'm just maneuvering my thread to come out this side so that when I've got this laid down, you can see where it is. Now I'm not going to reinforce this until after we get this guy into place. So if I put him down there and pop this over, okay, is 6 not enough? Oof. See, this is another problem. I think this might have been too small, maybe? No, I think it'll fit, especially since when they're tipped over like this, it gives me some dimensionality. So it raises it up a little bit. Okay. So I'm going to go from this knit bit. I'm coming out of the right side of this knit bit. I'm going to go into the right side of this knit bit opposite. Before I do that, I'm going to go through one of the holes in this cabochon. It's going to be, if I'm holding it this way with both holes facing towards me, I'm going through the right hole. Go through that knit bit. This should help pop this guy into place a little bit. It's not going to be a snug fit yet, not until we get some of these other beads on here to hold it into place. So now I'm going to go through that hole on that cabochon and then through the hole on the left side of that same knit bit that I was coming out of. So that the thread goes out of this hole, through this hole, across the knit bit, through that hole, and then into this knit bit. And yeah, sometimes your thread, when it's long, might get just a little bit caught on itself. When it does that and you go to pull it, you're gonna pull your work right out of your hands. All right, so this is still loosey-goosey in a way. I'm just gonna tighten that just a little bit. And yeah, so there's a little bit of space here between the cabochon and the knit bits. You can see right here along the corners, it's not super snug. So I'm going to do, when I pop it into place, when I push it with my fingers though, it does actually bloop, like that. All right. I'm pinching this and pulling the thread, pull the thread, not the needle, when you're tightening things, and that's pretty cool. It's going to be floppy until we get it, what's the word? Reinforced. And I'm going to do that reinforcing by doing kind of a faux bezel along here with some of these 15-ohs. So let me grab some 15-ohs. 1, 2, 3, 5. Let me see. I am coming out of this knit bit right here on this side, and I'm going to have these 15-ohs go from here. I'm going to need about maybe 3 more. 1, 2, 3. How do I want to do this? I had an idea of overlapping lines that was in the back of my head. Okay, so if I go from this one and cross this way, I'm going to need a couple more. Yeah, that's going to be kind of perfect. So I'm going to cross over there. So I'm going out of this left-hand one. I'm going to go across 2 nib bits over and go through this right-hand side hole towards the left. Work out any knots that it turns itself into as you go. Okay, was that too many? I don't think so. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm going to pick up, how many did I put on here? 1, 2, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay. So there's 11 of these on here. One, two, three, 4, 5. All right, so I'm going to pick up 5 11-ohs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Since I'm coming out of this hole here, I'm going to go through this 6th 11-oh here. These are 15-ohs, not 11-ohs. I am sorry. These are 15-ohs. That must have been very confusing for y'all. Nope, that's not working either. So this is where I'm going to go back. I'm going to back it up again and figure out a different way of doing a faux bezel. And I think I've got an idea. That is going to work better than this, because that's just overly complicating things, and I don't need that, and y'all don't need that. So let's take these 15-ohs off and back up. I'm not going to take all the 15-ohs off though. Because I'm going to see how many I can go under and around with on there. A couple more than that, I think. Just a couple more. Okay. All right, let me count how many 15-ohs I've got. see how many work for this. And that is 6 of them. I'm gonna add one more because I like having, no, actually no, six will work. 6 will work. Wait. Did I have more than that? Hold on. There were some that hadn't been moved down. So let's see how many I actually need. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. And then there's an 8 and 9 on there that I don't need. So I'm just going to take those off the needle by going back through them so that that thread comes off. All right. So I'm coming out of this side of my knit bit. I'm going to go through the same knit bit. Same direction, just make a little loop around it and add these 15-ohs, like a little smile around the bottom of my guy. And it's okay if they scooch up a little bit because we're going to be tamping them down after we get all of these on here. So I'm going to pick up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7 more. Wait, before I do that, I'm going to go through the next knit bit. All right, so I just went around that one. I'm going to go through this one and pick up 7 15-ohs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then go back through the same knit bit. I love when the knot includes the beads. That's fun. It adds a fun new wrinkle. Okay, there we go. A lot of times a knot is just something being in a loop and not actually a knot. So if you can find a way to reduce that loop, it works pretty well. All right, into the next knit bit. Knit bit is just a fun word to say anyway. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Go back through that same knit bit. I'm going to go all the way around with this. Don't forget to go into the next knit bit, Becky. One, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7. Next knit bit. And then into the next one. Did that go through the loop? It did. Sometimes your needle will go through the loop. If that's the case, just go back. Back it out. Right. So I'm getting this, but this is going to be moving down around here after we go through some of these beads another time. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's just following the path of least resistance right now, which is down the slope towards the narrower part of the knit bit. All right, last one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Counting with Becky. All right. Now, since we've got 7 in here, I'm going to go from here through these first 4 15-ohs on that first group that I had added. I'm not going to go through the other 3. so that I'm coming out of the center 15-0. And now I'm going to pull it down towards the middle. I'm going to pick up 3 15-0s, 1, 2, 3, and then sew through the center 15-0 in the next group of 7. So that fourth 15-0. Go like that. And then pick up 3 more 11-0s, 1, 2, 3, 15-0s, not 11-0s, sorry, and go through the center 15-0 in the next group of 15-0s. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's see how that's firming things up. And 1, 2, 3 15-0s. And count here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, this is working so much better than that original idea that I had that might work at some point, but it seems like it was just being overly complicated. This is a little less overly complicated, but still getting me what I want out of this. And that is firming things up and framing our cabochon a little bit better. 1, 2, 3, and go through, hold on, where's the 1, 2, 3, 4. This fourth guy. I'll pull this in. So yeah, this could be a pendant, it could be earrings, it could be a component in a bracelet design. You could probably do multiples of this and string them together, but I think it's gonna be a good pair of earrings, I think. 1, 2, 3, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. All right, now the last one. Just need to add 3 more on this one. 1, 2, 3. And then go through this center bead that I had already been coming out of when I added this. Now I pull that tight. This is a lot less floppy. We don't have the cabochon being weird about things anymore. But I am going to go through just this circle that I've made with my thread one more time to reinforce the whole thing. Sorry, I'm off screen because I wanted to see what I'm doing. Let's scooch in a little closer so you can see what I'm doing too. So I'm just going through all of those. Okay, just one more section. tightness. I'm wondering if I should go back through from this end and just add a few seed beads along the back to help solidify this. I might do that. This is the back side, so you've got like the flat end of that. And this side is all properly encased and everything. Let me think about that for a minute. Okay. It wouldn't have to be as decorative if we did that. So let's just go through this thread path of these 15-0s over here so that I can get around here to this nib bit. And I do want to reinforce the connection on the nib bit and cabochon here. So you can see the thread, that's where that's at. So I am going to go back through cabochon on this end, back to this nib bit here, back through the cabochon. And I'm just reinforcing at this point to make sure it's not going anywhere. Do I need... Nope, it's not going to go anywhere now that I've got that in there. Okay, so that's good. 2 passes for that one. You could do that when you add it. You don't have to come back and do it afterwards. Sometimes too, going through and being like, I need to do this when I'm actually creating it. That helps so that I solidify my process a little bit more instead of going back and adding things afterwards. I don't think I need to add more beads around the back here, because if I push on the cabochon, it's not going anywhere. It's going to stay right where I put it, right there in this design. You can if you want, but I don't think I need to. So I'm coming out of this nib bit here. I'm going to pop up here to this nib bit and go through all of these one more time. And this will reinforce this round. This was my initial round that I went through, and I only went through once. So I am going to go through all of these beads one more time, and my gemduos are floppy because we have not reinforced them or added beads in between them. So we are just going through here again. Wow, why is that one hard to get into? Maybe doing it from the back side is the best. Gemduo 11-0, gemduo, and nib bits. Sorry, I think I was drifting off screen again. I apologize. Ooh, I got all of those all in one go. That's lovely. Okay, I think these are the last 2 to go through. I wasn't keeping track. I'm real honest. But I'm going to go ahead and scooch up here to the next level. We're going to go all the way around in between each of the gemduos. So I'm going to come out of this hole on my gemduo, and scooch around it with my thread to that second round, and let's grab an 11-0, an 8-0, an 11-0, and a 6-0, an 11-0, 8-0, 11-0, and let's see if that's going to be too many or not enough in between them. And I think that's going to be just right, actually. I'll know for sure after I get the thread actually in there. Ooh, that was really good estimating on my side. All right, so let's do another one just like that. On to the next guy. And this is another round that we will be going through again to reinforce after we get all these on here. And I think because I really like the concept of using a 6-0 as a connection point in something, I think I'm going to go ahead and pick out what do you guys think? What color do you think would go well with this? Feels a little warm to be silvery, silver woodwork, but it also feels a little too bright to be gunmetal-y. What about bright copper? I think bright copper would be a good metal to use with this. Okay, so I'm just setting this other one aside for the second one that I make because these are going to be earrings, I have decided. So we've got some bright copper that I am going to use. Then I'll make some ear wires with some 22 gauge non-tarnished craft wire. Okay, perfect. So what I'm going to do is before I actually stitch this one into place, I am going to put a jump ring through that 6-0 seed bead, and then it's going to be my little stitch-in component for connecting things. So that's already got that on there. Close that up. And now, seed bead 8-0, seed bead 11-0, and then I'm going to go through my 6-0 that I've attached that jump ring to, and this one, can put the jump ring in after you've gone through all of this, but sometimes the beads next to it crowd out the hole and make it a little bit harder to do. So I'm just going to go this way and do it like this. Also, I am really happy that this little idea I had is actually working out. I did have to stop and restart a couple of times on this journey, but as we're finishing up, like this is the end game part of this whole design process journey that we're on. I'm really pleased that this is turning out so pretty, and that these little puzzle pieces that I was fiddling over are working together so nicely. That pleases me. I hope this helps if you're starting to branch out on your own designing or something like that. I hope watching me stop and start and try again helps to encourage you to not give up, to just, you know, even if you have to pull all the beads off and start over, just do a little more, do it again until it comes together the way you like it. Because it can absolutely be intimidating to do like seed bead designs like this or 2-hole bead designs just on your own, coming up with them on your own, because you're like, how is it going to work? It works when you make it work. that's how it works. And I'm going through a second time to reinforce this little circle, giving a little tug each time. It does tip my gemduos backwards a little bit, but that just gives me more dimensionality on this design. I might go through a third time. These are 11-ohs and gemduos. They're not 15-ohs, so they can handle a third pass through them, but that'll give me a little more security on the shape and all of that. So let's do that. I'm going to go through a third time after I get all the way around on these guys. This little circle of beads. How much fun is this? Yeah. Just finishing up. I will make a second one and I'll post pictures to the Beads in Progress Facebook group. That is Cassandra's Facebook group for her shop, to share designs made from tutorials that she's shared, from classes you might have taken at Beads to Live By, or things that you make with the curated collections. I'll post there, and I'll also post a photo to my YouTube page in the community section, so you guys can see the finished product, the finished earrings. It's like a Christmas wreath in weird colors. That's what I'm getting from this. Like, what if Christmas, but different colors? All right. I'm gonna start working my way down back to my tail thread. I could tie off at any point here, but I'm just gonna go back over here and tie onto the same tail thread that I tied before. Going to the second hole on that gemduo, then back through these guys. It's just a little easier for me if I only have to deal with burning down one spot where the thread is coming out of. There we go. And if you did tie it off somewhere else, if I did, I would do a couple of half hitch knots, move on, do another half hitch knot or two until I felt like it was going to be secure. But with this, I'm just going to tie it in a little knot, especially since this is going to be just an earring. It's not going to have a lot of stress or wear and tear on it. The simple knot is going to do nicely. All right, let me get this cleared off, and over here next to these beads, so we can take another look at the Beads to Live By Curated Collections for November 2025. Just one last look on those. There we go. And that's the little design that I made with it during my life. All right, until next time, my friends, happy beading.